Welcome back to episode 4 of the Merge Feast. My name is Blake, back with Logan and Brandon. What's going on, guys?
How's it going?
Well, let's hop into this episode. And if you guys are good with it, let's kind of talk about the ending. So, spoiler alerts for anybody that hasn't quite finished the episode yet. But are you guys good with talking about how the episode ended and then jumping back and going through everything?
Yeah, I think that makes sense this week. So
Perfect. So I thought it was kind of interesting that 2 weeks in a row we did not have a vote. Last week we did not have a tribal council because Randon was pulled from the game, and then this week, even though they went to tribal council, Yanu went to tribal council, they didn't have to vote because Bhanu did not have a vote, and everybody, you know, chose him. Like, everybody was voting for him, so they didn't even vote. Um, and I thought it was really cool, and we can dive into this in a little bit, but there were definitely parts of this episode, especially towards the end before Tribal, that I was pretty annoyed with Banu and just um, what's the word? Um, I don't know, just
Over it.
yeah. I thought he was Banu being he. I thought Banu was just pathetic, and I was just annoyed, ready for him to go. And I thought they took kind of a negative in the game and ended it on a really positive note. And I ended that episode thinking, like, dang, I really didn't like him as a player, but you can't hate the guy. Like, yeah, I mean, just his story and, like, I don't know. I thought it was really cool that they ended up turning that around, and at least for me, ended it on a really positive note.
yeah, I would agree. I think he throughout the game gave everybody a reason to obviously not like him based on kind of how he played. I think like everybody said on the tribe, like there's nothing against him. It was just the way he was playing, and so I think, like you said, them ending it off with kind of like a positive, going through his story and talking, and I definitely liked the way it ended rather than it just being a hey, go through, vote him out, and it was like I don't know. I just felt like it was a positive ending, like you said.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got to hear a little bit of Banu's story and his background, but it had to end. You can have whatever background you come from as a player. Like that doesn't make you a good player always, and I think Banu is the perfect example of that. Like love the story, don't have anything against the guy, but genuinely just one of one of the worst players we've seen in quite some time.
For
And
sure.
the fact that they just were so straightforward, like, yeah, Bonu's going home, and they didn't even bother going to the voting booth. I don't I don't even know the last time or if that has ever even happened
I
in
feel like I
Survivor.
remember it one other time, and I feel like it was in the modern era, like since season 41.
Okay.
But I could be totally wrong and making that up, but I feel like I I remember thinking the last time that it happened, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know that I've ever seen this." And I feel like that was fairly recently, but I couldn't pin it down.
I want to say that rings a bell. I don't know 100%. I would have to definitely have to go back and research that.
Yeah. Yeah, the only other time I can think of was like season 34 or something, the Jeff Varner situation. And if you're not familiar with that, you can look that one up yourself because that's not something I want to get into on here. But that, as far as like recently, I personally can't think of anything.
Yeah, and I think at least for me, I don't know about you guys, but the writing was on the walls. I mean, they ended last episode with kind of this newfound hope, but from the moment this episode started, they were highlighting how Banu kind of fumbled the bag. I mean, he just from spilling the beans about how he spilled the beans on that journey to just um, I mean, even in the immunity challenge, how he just failed and like he just totally missed a part of the challenge. We'll hop into that a little bit, but I really don't necessarily want this episode to be just kind of a crap on Banu. um, Even though that was kind of how the episode was, but there's definitely a handful of other things I'd like to discuss. But let's kind of get Banu out of the way. I know that'll take a majority of this, but if you guys are good with that, and then let's talk about some other things.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
Let's get into it.
Were you guys hopeful that Yanu was going to turn this week around after that reward challenge?
I was hoping that they were going to be able to take the momentum from the reward challenge into the immunity challenge, but man, unfortunately, Hunter is just insane, and Tim played really well as well in the immunity challenge. And like you said, like there was just a blunder, but I was hopeful just because like it gets kind of boring as a viewer to just watch the same group go to tribal over and over and over again. So I was hoping for a little change up this week.
I don't know. For me, that really showed because they just kept talking about how, or Banu kept talking about how he wants to be honest and didn't want to lie to people. And for me, that really showed that you can't really do that in this game. And I think everybody knew that, but this actually showed that, hey, that is not possible to be that open and transparent and quote unquote honest in the game.
Yeah,
It was, you have to be a little deceitful, a little like withholding of some information, even though
e-
that's not outright dishonest. But I don't know.
exactly. That's kind of my thoughts too. I think you can play an honest game, and it's how you either share or don't share information. I don't know if like not sharing something equals dishonesty, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because in this game, like knowledge is like the currency, right? And that ended up being Banu's detriment. So yeah, I don't know if being an open book will get you very far.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously being an open book to a point, like I think being an open book all the way is obviously too much, and we clearly saw that. But being an open book to the point of trying to be honest with your tribe mates to like a strategic standpoint, like as a tribe that maybe hasn't gone to tribal like every single week, and some of that, and building alliances, being like open with them, but Banu's type of being open and truthful was just not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, he literally, the fact that he told Q and Tiffany that he said that's essentially why he got voted out.
For
Mhm.
sure.
Because I imagine if he didn't say that, like Kinsey would have been the one had they lost going home tonight.
No, 100%. And I think he was just oblivious. Like I don't, even when he messed up, I don't think that he quite fully grasped it. And I don't know.
He
It was interesting. He
he, ha-
was
he had one moment this episode where I thought that something was gonna click, and it was after Q had that kind of training session with him of like, here's how you need to talk, here's how you need to like conduct yourself at tribal council and with
Mhm.
other castaways. And after Kinsey had snapped on him about um, Banu wanting help, I thought Banu might have had this kind of aha moment. of I'm being played, I'm being controlled, and didn't end up mattering. But I felt like that was like at least one redeeming kind of quality of Banu is that he did kind of figure it out. Obviously, way too late in the game.
Yeah. That moment right there showed me how good Kinsey was. I mean, she definitely lost her cool, but not that Banu's the best example, but because I think he was fairly easy to manipulate. Um, but I think that showed just a glimpse of how good Kinsey's playing. It turned into, and I think it was a sincere apology, but she didn't really seem like she wanted to apologize at first. And just like, "Ugh, I'll, I'll fall on the sword and, you know, take one for the team kind of deal. But she definitely played it really well and it was totally believable. So,
That I think that's what one of the scariest things about her, obviously, is like you said, being able to us seeing that kind of the first time here, but she is able to put some of the emotions aside and like kind of come to senses of where she is and be able to talk her way out of situations, you know.
let's stay on Banu for just another minute. I've got like two or three other things that I wanted to talk about with him. I'm sure he'll come back up, but before we kind of hop into some of the other things and the challenges, the two or three other things, the part where he was talking about how people just don't respect him, that was another like aha moment, or not aha moment, but another moment for me that made me realize like he just doesn't get it. Like, you messed up. You haven't earned their respect. Not that you always necessarily have to earn respect right off the bat, but when you've clearly messed up, why would they trust you or respect your gameplay, not respect you as a person? But that is when I knew he just doesn't get it.
Yeah, and I think Kinsey said it at some point in this episode where she's like, I love him. I love that he's a fan of the show, but I don't understand how he's even on the island.
Yeah,
Like he should have gone camping. It's just one of those like he should have stayed on the couch.
for sure.
Like, just the it's like this might be a very terrible analogy, but like we all love football, but like none of us are going to go and try to be the quarterback of an NFL team because like, we don't have what it takes. And I know it's like a little bit different, but
Hold on a second.
okay, Blake, sorry, Blake, you could do it, but me, no. But yeah, it's tough. Like it's he's watched all 45 seasons of the show. Like you think that you'd have a good grasp, and we've seen it before where somebody thinks they're going to go out. I know everything about the show. I'm going to be the best, and just ended up going down as one of the worst in history.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of a roller coaster for me. I mean, it went from that to, okay, they won the challenge. I think there may be some opportunity there, or won the reward challenge. Maybe some opportunity there. They get to the immunity challenge, and Banu, fumbles on jumping off the crates. Like, just completely didn't do it and had to go back. And they may not have won, but they were close enough with him fumbling that they very easily could have at least taken second.
Mm-hmm.
So it went from, okay, now your social game and your emotional state is in jeopardy, but now you can't even, carry us on the physical side.
Yeah.
And then after that, where he was talking about, like, when he got down on his knees in front of Tiffany, I was like, okay, this is just pathetic and
It's
sad. And
sad.
like,
Yeah, like
like
dude.
the begging, the groveling, like, get up, like, come on. I get you're passionate, and I love the passion, but it was it was not a good look.
No. I think those exact same words came out of my mouth, was kind of pathetic or sad. It, so,
Eh, yeah, and I think Tiff handled that really well because I don't really know how I would have been like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Like I don't know how I would have reacted to somebody
For sure.
like on their knees begging. So kind of commend her for being able to handle that and being like, pull yourself together. And that's not the first time. She kind of did the same thing to Q at one point. Hey, you got to pull yourself together and then let's have a conversation.
Yep.
So
mhm.
Yeah. No, absolutely. She handled that way better than I think I could have. Well, let's I know we kind of hopped all around the episode with that, but and I'm sure again, like I said, that Banu will probably come up again. But I do want to talk about some other things. So let's kind of hop back to the beginning of the episode. Um, and one of the things when they were talking about highlighting what happened last week and with Randon going home, I was reading an article where Jeff had kind of clarified some rules around that, with Randon giving away an advantage, possibly. Jeff basically explained that the rules of the game, and it sounds like there are legitimate rules of the game that they go over the players of or go over with the players on, but said the rules of the game is that Randon or anybody can give away an advantage up until the point that they are removed from the game.
mm,
So he gave the example of if they would have been sitting on the beach, Jeff talking to them, pulls the doctor in as the doctor's explaining what's going on, all the way up until the point that the doctor says, "We are pulling you from the game," or "We are removing you from the game," or however it was worded. At any point during that, he could have said, "Hold on a second," given an advantage to her, or "I'll be right back. I need to run and do something," or anything like that, and they would have let it go. But once they say the words that we're removing you from the game, that's gone. He
mm.
does not have the opportunity after that.
Interesting. Okay.
So I thought that was kind of some good clarity because that was one of the things that I thought, like, at what point do they tell him that he can't give that away? Um, so it almost made me wonder if he did not realize that there was a possibility of him getting removed from the game, because I think he probably would have given that advantage away, but I don't know.
And are we sure that you said he didn't give it away?
I don't believe so. I mean, they
Okay.
haven't even
I
hinted at it.
I feel like they would have revealed it this week if he did.
Hmm.
But yeah, as
Okay.
far as I know that he left with it in his pocket basically.
Before we get to the reward challenge, two things that I wanted to talk about. One, I miss the old tree mail. Going back to like the first 20 seasons, like there was such a highlight and an excitement around tree mail that I just don't think we've gotten the last couple seasons. And we saw it a couple times this episode, and I realized how much I missed it. Not that it's a huge part of the show, but it was a good thing for that to come back this week for me.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. That they kind of made a point to show us tree mail both times or for both challenges today. And yeah, they should do that more. Why not?
I'm down for it. Honestly, I didn't. Now that you say that, it kind of clicked. I was like, yeah, we don't usually have that, and obviously, I'm going back and watching the previous seasons, and that is definitely something that's highlighted at every time. So, yeah, absolutely excited that that's back. Continue it.
I think we ought to, you know, tweet at Jeff and give him some ideas because I think that might be a really cool thing to add in, like another layer or level of the challenges. That, hey, you have to solve this before you get to the challenge, or if you do this beforehand, you'll get an advantage, or whatever it may be. that kind of ties in a core original piece of Survivor to kind of the new era and just twisting it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I may be totally overthinking it, but I was
Yeah.
like, that might be kind of cool.
I like it. They should bring back shelter building montages while they're at it. Those
Ooh,
are
I
always
like it.
fun.
Yep.
Are we ready to hop into the reward challenge?
Let's do it.
Perfect. So Tree Mail kind of hinted at nourishment for this reward and get to the challenge, and we find out that the reward is the first team to finish wins 10 fish. The second team to finish wins 5 fish. So challenge is pretty straightforward, kind of a fun one. So obviously the 3 tribes are going to paddle a boat. Uh, there's a key on a platform that you have to retrieve. You're going to bring that key in on your boat. You're going to unlock 4 rings from a pole on land, and then one thing I liked about this challenge is that it required participation from every player. There was nowhere to hide. You couldn't, like, Nami couldn't have Hunter do everything. Everybody had to contribute in some form or another. So you unlock the 4 rings, and then each person, there's 4 participants per team, had to fling the rings off of the giant pole. And then once you released your rings, everybody had to dig under a big log obstacle, dig under the sand, and then climb under it. And then on the other end of the obstacle was another giant pole that was essentially the same as the one that they flung the rings off of to begin with, and then basically played a giant game of ring toss. And first team to finish that won reward, and we kind of talked about it earlier in the episode. Yanu dominated this challenge, honestly, and won their first challenge of the season, was able to win the 10 fish, which we'll get to more of that in a second. Nami won the second reward, which was the 5 fish. And an interesting element to this, Yanu, who has yet to win a challenge, one of the punishments for not winning immunity challenges is you lose your flint. So Yanu hasn't had flint. And they didn't have a way to cook the fish. So instead of taking the 10 fish, they traded the 10 fish for a large tarp and a toolkit. What do you guys think of this challenge?
I thought it was awesome, and I am with you in the fact that I think it was great that everybody had to participate in at least one portion of that, like getting the rings off of that pole rather than relying on Hunter in their case. I thought was great, and I think they should do more of that. Like each person has to land this on the ring, or whatever it may be. I love it.
Do you? I was kind of surprised because throughout that, at the beginning, obviously each person had to get the ring off of the pole. I honestly was kind of expecting each person to have to put the ring back on the pole rather than it just be one person. Do you think that's maybe too much, or were you kind of surprised by that as well?
I was a little surprised by that as well. I didn't hate it, but I think I would have enjoyed it as well if they would have made, each person throw a ring on the pole as well.
I kind of wanted them to do that
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know. I like the idea of, like we already said, like Hunter has been the clear cut kind of challenge beast in the season so far. Like you can't just rely on that guy. Everybody has to contribute, and uh you know, you can't, again, there's nowhere to hide. Because you got to see in the challenge, like, I don't know what Tim was doing on the platform in the water. He flipped it over at one point, fell off of it 3 or 4 times.
That
It
was
was a mess.
hilarious.
And then Maria was really struggling to get the ring off of the first pole. She took forever, and that was honestly kind of Siga's demise in the challenge, was her being unable to do that in a timely manner.
And I mean, speaking about Maria there, like obviously she struggled with that, and I think that's where whenever you make everybody participate, obviously somebody's going to struggle at some point. And so I think that's where Survivor's always been really good about teammates like cheering the other people on, especially in this new era. I feel like they've done a really good job of cheering everybody on and like encouraging them. And then I think the satisfaction that those people get of I completed that or I didn't give up. And we've seen that season after season after season. I think those moments get highlighted and are awesome. So I hope they continue that.
That, but also I think it's because I believe, I mean, we haven't really gotten to see it because nobody else has lost, but I think Maria was in a really good position in that tribe. And even though this was a reward challenge, I think
Yeah.
making everybody participate can really shake things up. So if she was struggling, you miss once or twice and then pass it off to the next person who crushes it. That doesn't give you the opportunity to become the reason that the tribe lost.
Right.
So I think it mixes it up a little bit. So from that aspect, I really like it too.
Yeah. I think it did kind of soften the blow for Maria that it was just her award. There was no immunity at stake for them, so can't really be too mad at her. Like you missed out on 5 fish essentially, and but I think Ben. We've talked about Ben a few times. Ben did a really nice job of kind of building her up and kind of talking her through that, and just like again back to what Logan said, everybody just being positive and like it's a team, it's okay. We're doing this together.
Yeah, I kept thinking that, man, Siga is a really close knit tribe. Like everybody just seemed on the same page, and I will talk about them more in a minute with the fake beware advantage. But at up until that beware advantage part, I was like, oh my gosh, like they are going to stick together throughout the merge, and if they have the numbers, they're going to do it. Somebody from this tribe is going to win, just from how close knit they seemed, even when they lost. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how that dynamic looks if or when they lose the immunity challenge.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we want to get into it yet, but it'll be kind of interesting to see. Seem like there might be some rifts going on with this whole beware advantage situation.
Yeah. Before we hop into that, let's talk about, because I think you briefly mentioned it, but with Yanu not having Flint and them winning the 10 fish, the fish weren't going to do them any good. I mean, they're not going to eat sushi. So, you know, they ended up trading their reward for, it was the tools and the large tarp. Is that right?
Yes.
Mm.
So I was interested to hear how that would work like beforehand, because I heard Q mention it, before they even participated in the challenge, but um, I didn't realize that they trade for a previous reward. How many times have we seen that? Has that happened very often?
I don't know. So whenever I heard Q say that before the challenge, I thought they were talking about like if we win this, we're gonna have to negotiate our way into getting something different. I didn't realize that Jeff was just gonna be like, "Hey, you can have this instead if you want."
Right.
But
Or maybe like, hey, we'll take two fish and our flint. Like
yeah,
negotiate something, but
yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
There must have been a rule that we didn't know because he clearly in there he said you can trade for any of the previous rewards. So definitely had to be a rule in there somewhere that it's maybe just never come up. I don't know, but
yeah,
I like
definitely.
that we've seen this a couple times where, the whole not voting this week, or hey, they don't have flint, they can't take advantage of this reward. Like it, we've seen this a couple times this season where Survivor clearly knows what they're doing and they're prepared for any and every circumstance. And why wouldn't they? But it's cool to see how some of those have played out. Was it Nami also won?
Yes.
Yeah, Nami won the other fish, and I thought we got a cool look into Tevin's story, just about his dad passing away and how that was the last time that he had cooked fish and gone fishing, really. And I know we talk about this a lot, but really, every time we hear about people's kind of story, I like those people so much more. I wish we got more of that. It just helps me be invested into the players. And that was a really cool moment for me.
That was one of my highlights that I really enjoyed of this episode of one, hearing his story and kind of going through that. Like you said, I think they've done a really good job of highlighting the personal stories and all of that. But I I thought seeing that of him and then highlighting him, and we can get into that maybe a little bit more of, you kind of started seeing him play the game a little bit more this episode of noticing Soda and all of that. So I definitely liked the little snippet of Tevin that we got this week.
Well, I know we've kind of touched on it, but let's hop into the Beware advantage and what's going on there with Sega. Brandon, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So Jim I believe last week, found the Beware advantage, and what she decided to do this episode, was plant a fake Beware advantage. And I thought it was a very odd decision. So basically, she plants the parchment. Hey, this is a Beware advantage. Dig below. I believe Maria found it, and she starts digging below and is unable to find anything. So they leave it alone for a while, and then all come back to it as a tribe. And was it Mariah that kind of caught on? Or no, it was Charlie that caught on.
Yep.
Charlie and Mariah both said some things that were like, something's not right here. But they were digging, and obviously didn't find anything because there's nothing to find. And they were immediately like, somebody planted this. And Tim kind of got framed, and Jim was like, yeah, it was definitely Tim. But what do you guys make of this move? Because I am having trouble seeing the benefit to it, especially because the Sega tribe has had zero reason to even really play the game because they haven't gone to tribal.
Yeah, I started trying to think about it from a different perspective because it doesn't make sense. But I also thought, okay, sitting here on my couch, only thinking the strategy not being actually in the game, maybe there's more to it. And I began to wonder if Jim is actually a stronger player than we gave her credit for. Granted, we haven't been able to see Sega play much of the game at all because they haven't gone to tribal, they haven't needed to. But I almost kind of wondered if either one, she didn't really think it all the way through and it was, I just want to throw people off my scent kind of deal, or if it was, I'm feeling really comfortable and I want to shake things up a little bit. So this seems fun. Or
It,
maybe a combination of both.
it may
And I don't know.
maybe it is just as simple as like, I'm bored. We need something to happen here. Because for me, like, there's uh, at this point, unless there's just stuff that we don't know, like, there is no reason at this point in the game to cause a rift in the camp with planting a fake Beware advantage. And it's a huge risk to you anyway, because you still there's still a chance that you can get caught, and it can be, the fingers can be pointed back to you. And Siga hasn't lost yet, so she still doesn't technically have the immunity idol. She would have to, if they lose, go back to the spot, get the puzzle, hopefully be able to solve the puzzle, and then get her idol. So like there's a chance that it can go south, and it just feels like a weird move to make.
Yeah, it almost seems like she didn't think that all the way through, because it'd be one thing if it was just a hidden immunity idol, like a fake idol. I kept noticing the beads that everybody had this week. I don't know why I've never noticed that before, but everybody has like some sort of necklace or beads or something. And I thought, okay, might be one thing if it was just a fake immunity idol. You know, get put somebody on kind of a lower level than you, even if you have a real one or don't have a real one, whatever. But that's not what it was. And I don't know, there was just not a lot of forethought in that, I don't think. And even if it was a fake immunity idol, there was still no need for it.
Exactly.
They haven't lost. I mean, at that point, you're either just dumb, and she doesn't seem to be, or she's bored. And it may be a combination of both.
Yeah, I think it is, because I just don't see, and we can move off of it. Like, I just don't see a reason to make a move like this when there's literally no reason to do it.
Logan, let's talk for a minute on Nami. You highlighted earlier just getting to see some of Tevin's gameplay, but also Soda. Kind of talk about what happened there and what you thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it came down to Kevin has noticed Soda is starting to play the game. She is going around and trying to be as friendly as possible to everybody, and he's starting to notice being like little snippets of her being out with everybody randomly throughout the day, and almost seemed starting to wonder, is she starting to play him like she's playing everyone else? And you see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was him and Hunter kind of had a conversation about it, and Hunter agreed, like she's playing. And so I think she could be in trouble if she's not careful, because she is playing a very kind of upbeat or active game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
She was kind of being a little cringy this episode, in my opinion. But the same way, like, I look at Siga, like, there's really nothing about Nami that makes me think they're gonna go to tribal anytime soon. So I don't even know if this is gonna come to fruition. But it makes me feel good about picking Tevin to win, because he's picking up on the fact that Soda's playing hard, and he's realizing that, yeah, she's one of my closest allies, but that might not be the best move for me to make to win this game.
For sure. And I'm also a little fearful of the opposite. I mean, they haven't necessarily needed to play super hard or needed to throw anybody's names out there. And obviously, Soda is playing hard socially and talking to everybody. People are seeing that. I don't quite see what everybody else sees. And maybe it's different being there on the tribe with her, but she seems like she's rubbing some people the wrong way, but everybody seems like I don't know, they just act like she's playing a great social game. Am I crazy on that, or did you guys pick up on any of that?
That for me, that's kind of what like the vibe that everybody was putting off was that she was befriending everybody. But I agree with you as well. We've already seen multiple examples of like of her tribe being kind of annoyed with her, as simple as like uh, kind of smack talking and like ripping the immunity idol out of Venus's hands.
Right.
Like, so it's interesting that Tevin came to that conclusion.
So on that note with Tevin, if that were to get back to Soda, if everybody is split on Soda and, you know, and they wouldn't just blindly say, okay, we'll go with Tevin instead of Soda, could that potentially be to Tevin's detriment by being a person that's thrown a name out there? Because Soda was doing the exact opposite. She was throwing names out there of people she wanted to be aligned with, where Tevin was like, hey, she's a threat, and throwing somebody's name out there. I just thought it was a little early for that when they hadn't even lost yet.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be an issue for Tevin because I think he's got Hunter in his back pocket. Seems to have Liz on board. They already lost Randon. So that's if my math is correct, that's 3 on 2 at the most, and I don't see Venus going with Soda, though she's kind of had her riffs with Tevin as well, but I don't think it's gonna be a problem for Tevin.
I hope
It,
not, because I've liked Tevin, but
yeah, I don't think it's too early. And I think if him and Hunter have, like Brandon says, the relationship, I think if they can keep that kind of on the down low and just be weary of her and just kind of voice that and say, hey, are making sure that they're on the same page. I think just being aware of that and bringing that to light is a positive thing for down the road, because I think as soon as merge happens, she is kind of in a way like Kinsey, where she's able to talk to just about anybody, and I think she's bubbly enough that there will be people that like her. So I think being aware of that now, I don't think it's too early by any means, because I think we're right around the corner from the next step in the game.
yeah.
Do you guys think that we're gonna have a tribe swap?
Ooh. I did once Yanu lost Banu. Ha, that rhymed. Unintentional. Um, but then they didn't highlight it at all, like, or tease it at all for next episode. I don't know how they can't with only 3 people left, but maybe. Maybe they keep it going. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I almost feel like there's got to be, because being down to 3, at that point, I think that's just too many, just not enough.
It feels inevitable to me that a tribe swap is happening. Like maybe they do one more um tribal, but I just feel like next week, even though like they didn't tease it, I just feel like it's happening.
Do you think they do maybe reward separate, or do you think if they do a tribe swap, it'll be at the beginning?
I think it could be just based off of the teaser of the episode. I wouldn't think that it would be at the beginning because it
Yeah,
felt like we were going to see more of the whole the fake beware advantage saga with Siga.
yeah,
That
that's true.
was fun to say, but I maybe they do it right before the challenge and they're like drop your buffs.
Well, speaking of challenges, let's talk about the immunity challenge. I know we have a little bit in regards to in regards to Banu, but Brandon, kind of lay out this challenge for us, and then I'm curious to see what you guys thought of this one.
Yeah, before we do the challenge, we have to talk about Mariah and the fact that she literally can't jump. I've never known somebody that when they try to jump, they don't leave the ground, basically.
Well, Harrison, Logan, your son, he can hardly jump.
Okay. 2
First
years old.
off, don't put him on blast. Second off, he's 2. But yes, you are correct. He jumps in. There's just about enough space beneath his feet that he can't get anything underneath it. So
Yeah, they had a practice session of Mariah jumping, which was hilarious.
It
It's
was
because
awesome.
they thought, because again, based on Tree Mill, they thought that it was going to be the challenge where you jump off the platform and try to grab the key, like we've seen a million times. It didn't end up being that. Instead, this is the challenge that we got. So, water challenge again, and it's going to start. You're going to jump into the water. You're going to climb ropes onto a tall tower, jump back in the water, get back on another platform, climb up like stairs, basically. That's important. And then you're going to jump off of that and then dive down, and you're going to release 3 buoys. And then you're going to take that to your platform. And then your next tribe member will go and repeat the same process. Once your entire tribe has retrieved their buoys, you're going to open them up. You have to find the buoys, 3 buoys that have your tribe's symbol on them. And then basically you're going to play basketball. You have to score 3 baskets, and first 2 teams to score all 3 of their buoys in the basket win immunity. And Logan, I'll let you take what happened with Bhanu in the challenge.
the Bhanu starts, obviously climbs up the ladder, jumps off the ledge, goes in the water, and instead of going up the stairs, like you said, just walks around them and jumps in the water to release the buoys. At that point, he had released the buoys, and Jeff yelled, "Bhanu, you have to go back and like go off the steps." So not only did he swim out farther to release the buoys, he had to swim back, climb up, jump off just to swim back more. And I honestly, truly believe if it wasn't for that, they had a very, very good shot at winning.
I
I
agree.
absolutely agree.
And I know, so obviously Nami wins and Siga wins. Hunter once again dominated at the end, but I still feel like I know that Banu messed up, but I feel like at that point, if you are Q or Kinsey or Tiff, whoever, Q in this example, because he chose to be the one to shoot the buoys, you've got to step up and make up for your team members' kind of shortcomings or downfalls. Like, I think in that situation, like, pick up your teammates. And I'm not blaming Q for the loss by any means, but like sometimes you just got to be the guy, and that would have been a good opportunity for Q to keep his tribe from going to tribal council.
For sure.
I think
No,
he did a pretty
absolutely.
good job. I mean, I think, I think he missed the first one, and then he made 2 in a row, and then he missed that go ahead one whenever it was down to him and um
Down to him and Tem, but he wasn't
Tim.
even close on that one
But
that
that
he
was
missed.
I believe that was that the first one that he even shot at that length, and Tim had shot I think maybe 2 or 3 at that point.
It was, but again, like, dude, you got to come through right there.
Yeah.
That's where I'm with you. I'm not blaming Q at all because I don't think he did bad in the challenge. He just didn't do outstanding to set the team, like overcoming that adversity. What I kind of thought is, man, if Banu wasn't so bad and if he was actually a fairly strong player, somebody absolutely had the opportunity to pitch to Tiffany and Kinsey to say, man, out of multiple challenges, Q's failed us twice. Like, I don't have a lot of room to talk, but I've messed up once. Q hasn't come through twice, and just totally spin it on him. But Banu's like, I can't do anything. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know. So
Uh,
I
eh,
do think a stronger player would have totally shaken up that tribe.
I think so too. And to stay on the challenge, when one person's shooting the balls and there's somebody in the water retrieving them, if you miss, help me understand why Banu was ever the person that was
Yeah.
retrieving the balls. Tiffany had to say, "Hey, Banu, I'm switching out and I'm going to retrieve instead." Like again, just that's poor planning, and that's kind of what we've seen throughout every challenge with Yanu to this point is they don't seem to have a great game plan put together to even set themselves up for success. So like even like they don't have the physical talent to win the challenges. They don't even have the teamwork to put it together to make sure that the strongest players are in the best position to give their tribe a chance to win. Like you don't
Right.
put your weakest player in a big spot like that. Like that's just like sports. I'm thinking of sports like 101.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and that's where I think um, they ended up using Banu and Jess as kind of scapegoats the last handful of weeks. That hey, they're the reason we lost. And like I don't think so. I think your lack of foresight and poor planning has definitely added to that. Not that they were the greatest, most physical people that we've ever seen, but I think it's both and.
I totally agree with both of you, honestly. I didn't necessarily look at it that way beforehand, but you guys changed my mind. So
Well, I know we talked a lot about tribal council already. Is there anything that you guys want to talk about before tribal or during tribal, anything like that?
I don't think so. I'm honestly going to jump into Survivor of the Week if you guys are.
yeah, I like it.
Before we do that, as precedent set by last season, Brandon, um, my like winner pick got voted out, unfortunately. And looking back, I am an idiot for picking Banu. Um,
I actually
Genuinely,
I actually looked up our list. I was like, okay, who had picked Banu, like not necessarily to win, but on their team, and realized
hey, I think Blake should have to edit this week for picking him as the winner.
I noticed that it said Banu next to Blake. I was like, Blake did pick Banu. Like how? Yeah.
Yeah.
so I,
And
I
like
tried to rationalize that to myself. Is my thought was if there's any chance he gets to the end with his story sitting at final three, how do you not vote for him? I don't think I realized at that point how bad of a player he was that first episode.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I was about to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I forgot that we got 2 hours worth of Banu to even think about. So yeah, I don't know
Oh,
what you were doing. Yeah. Because
at least I don't have him on my team, so that's all right.
yeah, hey,
Um,
you know what? I only had a 4 sentence bio to go off of, so I'm giving myself the benefit of the doubt.
there you go. I will, since we're on that, I will go ahead and pick a new winner. And I'm glad I get to pick this person before either of you do, because the winner of season 46 is going to be Hunter.
Okay.
Okay. I it's funny that you say, you're glad that you got to pick him before I do. I mean, I'm not gonna have to repick, so it doesn't really matter to me. Tevin's winning,
Allegedly. Allegedly.
and that's just, you're getting smarter, Blake. Brandon picked Tevin. Hunter is Tevin's number one. Blake's gonna latch on to Brandon. and we're gonna go to the end together. That's what you're doing. I see it.
Hey, but that's okay because both Tevin and Hunter are on my team. So
Well, there you go.
we've got 6 ways to Sunday to
I
to
have
try to win this.
no
And
rebuttal for that one.
checkmate. And checkmate.
You win. But I just won't let everybody forget that you originally picked Bhanu. So
That's fair. We ought to type this up and put it in like kind of the show notes just so everybody can see who all we've picked, and as embarrassing as some of that might be.
I like it. So, Survivor of the Week.
Survivor of the week.
Well,
Rock, paper, scissors. Logan, you're up.
nice.
Rock.
Oh,
Um,
paper?
for me, Survivor of the Week, I am going to go with Tevin. I don't feel like, and I could be wrong, but I don't feel like there was a ton of like just standout players this week. Anything like major moves. I like the side of him for, or the side of kind of looking ahead at what's to come in the game and his position and being strategic in his story and all of that. So, for me, this week, Tevin was my pick.
Yeah. So this is a tough one this week because I feel like this episode was so hyper focused on Banu and everything going on in Yanu camp that we didn't really get a ton of time to see, what was going on anywhere else.
So wait, you're not picking Venus?
Hey,
I don't think
I-
she said one word this episode.
yeah, was she there? Yeah. Venus for not annoying me. I, like I I feel like the one kind of like strategic thing that happened, like I'm looking at the whole beware advantage, fake beware advantage, and can I give a survivor of the week? Is that allowed?
Changing the rules already, huh?
Yeah. Like again, I don't want to pick Tevin because Logan picked Tevin because Logan agrees that Tevin's gonna win the game. And
What I said.
but Charlie and Mariah, for realizing that they're getting bamboozled by the whole beware advantage thing. So like there's just there's not a lot of substance to like anybody that stuck out. So I'll throw it over to you, Blake.
So what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you would probably agree that Tevin is actually Survivor of the Week. But if we had to give a runner up, you would go with Charlie and
Charlie and Mariah. Yeah.
Mariah.
And Mariah gets bonus points for the whole jumping thing.
For sure. Take her to new heights. Yeah, I'll be totally honest. I am absolutely 100% with you guys. I think Tevin was the runaway this week. As good as Hunter was in the challenges, I don't think we've quite seen the social side of his gameplay yet, and that's where Tevin shined this week. So I am absolutely with you. If I had to give a runner up, and to do somebody different than we've already talked about, my runner-up vote would be Tiffany for the way she handled Bhanu when he was on his knees begging her to help him. Just how she was honest, and I don't know, just handled that really well. A couple times she's called Q out with like, "Hey, like, get out of your head. Let's have a conversation." And she's broke down a couple times as well, but this week I was like, dang, I would not have reacted that way at all. And she kind of impressed me on that side of things.
I like it.
I like it.
I think Q Tiffany and Kinsey deserve a little bit of credit for dealing with Bhanu for 9 days.
For sure.
Mm,
So
yeah.
co survivors of the week.
Real quick on them, I'll be curious to see if those three can stick together and kind of almost be in a way of Jam, Carson, and Carolyn, kind of three making it to the end and that type, because it's set up exactly like that, honestly. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out, if they can stick together or not. But Banu might have ruined that because he painted a target on him. But
Yeah.
But if
I
it
like
goes
it.
down to those three, like which do you think we'll stay with three? If we do a tribe swap, do you think we'll stay with 3 tribes or go to 2?
I think they'll do 3 tribes.
yeah, I do
Phil.
too. But we shall see.
So depending on how everything's split with, even if they went to the merge now, which they wouldn't, but both sides are gonna be wanting those 3 people. So that may end up working out really well.
I, hypothetical, like let's say that what Logan says is true, and Q, Tiffany, and Kinsey, let's say somehow they're the final 3. Who's winning?
Tiffany.
Tiffany. Exactly. That's exactly what I would have said.
Guess whose pick that was to win it all?
Hey, this is all hypothetical. Relax.
I don't know actually. My initial thought was Tiffany, but I mean I could argue any way.
Yeah.
I think Kinsey would have to win some challenges. Maybe the endurance things of like the challenges will be more her speed, but she'll have to win some challenges for me. But I mean, Q's right up there too. I don't
Yeah.
know
I could see it going anyway, but it'd be interesting.
for sure.
Yeah.
But
Well, Brandon, where can everybody find us?
You can find us every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and basically anywhere else you can think of that has podcasts available. And while you're there, give us a 5-star rating if you're enjoying the show. That helps us get feedback, and it helps us grow and get more reach. So if you're enjoying what you are listening to, give us 5 stars.
Also on Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. I don't know why I can't figure that out. It's like GIF or GIF for me. But we're on there as the merge the Merge Feast pod. So would love to hear from you guys on who your pick is to win. I think it'd be fun to get a bunch of people kind of weighed in and hear the reasons why. So anybody else have anything?
off you wrote.
All right. Well, say goodbye, Logan.
Goodbye, Logan.